Welcome to the Forgotten Narrator. The Catachan Devil, a name whispered in fear across the jungles of Catachan, has become one of the most iconic and terrifying figures in the entire Warhammer 40k universe. This monstrous entity, whose very existence straddles the line between myth and reality, has haunted the imaginations of those who have heard its stories for generations. The Catachan Devil isn't just another legendary creature, it's a symbol of the savage, the untamable spirit of Katachan itself, a planet infamous for its brutal wildlife and even deadlier warriors. The devil, as the legend goes, is more than just a creature. It's a reflection of the planet's unforgiving environment, a representation of the relentless survival instincts needed to thrive in such a hostile world. But what is it that makes the Catachan Devil so iconic? It isn't simply the tales of a terrifying beast lurking in the jungles waiting to strike. No, it's the sheer power of the legend. In the minds of both the Catachan regiments and those who fight alongside them in the Imperial Guard, the devil embodies the very essence of survival, strength, and fearlessness. It has become a symbol of the elite Catachan jungle fighters, the fiercest soldiers in the Imperium, whose reputation is as brutal as the planet they call home. The legend of the Catachan Devil has shaped their identity, their tactics, and their very way of life. This is no ordinary tale of a monster lurking in the shadows. This is a story that has become part of the fabric of Warhammer 40k itself, echoing through the ranks of the Imperial Guard and across the battlefields of the galaxy. The Catachan Devil isn't just a creature of myth, it's a reflection of the very heart of Catachan, a reminder of the harsh reality of survival in a universe where only the strong endure. But how much of the legend is true? And is there more to the Catachan Devil than just a terrifying story told around campfires? That's what we're about to explore. The origins of the Catachan Devil are as murky as the jungles it supposedly haunts. Some say it's nothing more than a myth, a tale spun by the hardened veterans of the Catachan jungle fighters to scare the young recruits into keeping their wits about them. Others believe it's a terrifying truth, a creature born from the very heart of the planet's untamed wilderness, a predator whose legend is only outmatched by its sheer terror. The truth, like so much in the Warhammer 40k universe, is likely far more complicated than we'll ever fully know. But one thing is certain, the Catachan Devil is as much a part of Catachan's history as the deadly flora and fauna that make the planet a living hell. The first whispers of the Catachan Devil appear in the stories told by the jungle fighters themselves. These are men and women who have lived through the most brutal training in the Imperium, battling the deadliest creatures the galaxy has to offer. According to the stories, the devil isn't just a single creature. It's a presence, a malevolent force that stalks the jungles, a living nightmare that preys upon the unwary. The Catachan jungle fighters, who are known for their toughness and resilience, speak of it with a mixture of awe and fear, which says everything you need to know about just how terrifying this creature is. The first official accounts of the Catachan Devil come from the earliest encounters with the planet by the Imperial Guard. Catachan's reputation as one of the most dangerous and unforgiving worlds in the galaxy was well established long before the Catachan Devil was even mentioned by name. But it wasn't until the arrival of the first Catachan regiments on a wider scale that the myth began to take shape. These warriors, trained to survive in the jungle's death traps, began reporting strange sightings, flickers in the shadows, monstrous shapes moving just beyond the edge of their vision. Some claim to have seen the devil itself, a massive, hulking creature with claws that could tear through armor as easily as a knife through flesh. As the stories spread, the devil became something of a symbol to the Catachan jungle fighters, a representation of the dangers they faced every day in their fight for survival. It wasn't just a creature to fear, it was a challenge, a part of the deadly landscape that was Catachan itself. The stories of the devil began to take on a life of their own, with each retelling adding new details, new horrors, until it became a larger-than-life figure in the Catachan mythology. But where did these stories come from? Was the Catachan Devil a real creature, or was it simply a reflection of the danger that lurked around every corner of Catachan? Some believe that the devil is a physical manifestation of the planet's wild, untamable nature, a creature born from the toxic, irradiated soil of Catachan, shaped by the planet's brutal ecosystem. The theory goes that the devil is a product of the planet's violent evolutionary process, a super predator designed to survive in an environment where only the strongest can thrive. After all, Katachan is a world where life is constantly fighting for survival, and it stands to reason that any creature strong enough to survive there would be a nightmare in its own right. Others, however, think that the Catachan devil is something older, something far more dangerous. In the Warhammer 40k universe, we know that chaos and the warp have a way of twisting and distorting the natural world, and some fans have theorized that the Catachan devil might be a product of these darker forces. Is it possible that the devil was once a regular animal, perhaps a large predator, that was mutated by the warp, becoming something far more terrifying in the process? Given the warped reality of Warhammer 40k, this theory certainly holds weight. After all, the Imperium has dealt with far stranger creatures, many of which were once natural animals before becoming twisted by the forces of chaos. But perhaps the most intriguing theory is that the Catachan devil is not a creature at all, but a reflection of the psyche of the Catachan jungle fighters themselves. The devil could be a legend created by the soldiers, a way of coping with the overwhelming danger and brutality of their environment. The more the story is passed down, the more it takes on a life of its own, becoming an almost supernatural figure that embodies the fear, survival, and strength needed to survive on Catachan. It could be that the devil isn't just a literal creature, but a symbol of the savage warriors who have been forged in the crucible of Catachan's death traps. In this sense, the Catachan devil would be less of a monster and more of a reflection of the soul of the Catachan jungle fighters. Fan theories abound, with some suggesting that the Catachan devil could be a guardian spirit of the jungle, a creature that watches over the planet's warriors and punishes those who fail to live up to the harsh expectations of Catachan life. Others believe it is simply a projection of the fighters' fears, a story that's been told so often that it has taken on a life of its own. The truth, like so much in the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40k, is likely somewhere in between, with the Catachan devil remaining as much a mystery as the jungle itself. One thing is clear: the Catachan devil has become more than just a story. It's a part of the identity of Catachan and its warriors. It is the embodiment of everything that makes the jungle fighters so fearsome: their tenacity, their strength, and their ability to survive against impossible odds. Whether it's a literal creature, a twisted creation of chaos, or a symbol of Catachan itself, the Catachan devil remains one of the most iconic and terrifying figures in the Warhammer 40k universe. And as long as Catachan exists, so too will the legend of the devil, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. The legend of the Catachan devil has done more than just scare soldiers on the front lines. It has become a defining element of the Catachan jungle fighters' identity. For these soldiers, it's not just about surviving the brutal conditions of their homeworld. It's about embodying the very essence of the legend that haunts their jungles. The Catachan devil, whether it's a literal monster or a metaphor for the harshness of their environment, plays a crucial role in shaping the way these soldiers view themselves and their mission. In many ways, the devil is as much a part of Catachan as the jungle itself, with its lore and mythos woven into the culture of every soldier who calls the planet home. The first thing to understand is how the Catachan devil represents the values that the jungle fighters hold dear. For them, it's not just about strength and survival. It's about resilience, cunning, and the ability to conquer the impossible. The devil isn't just a creature to fear. It's a challenge, a symbol of what they are up against every single day. In the jungles of Catachan, the devil is the ultimate predator, an apex creature that embodies the dangers lurking around every corner. It is a reminder that the jungle is a place where only the strong survive, and every day is a battle for life. In this sense, the Catachan devil isn't just a story, it's a reflection of the mindset needed to survive in such an unforgiving place. The influence of the Catachan devil on the jungle fighters goes beyond the psychological and cultural. It also shapes their training and tactics. When soldiers are trained on Katachan, they are taught not only to fight but to think like the devil. They are taught to use the environment to their advantage, to stalk their enemies as the devil would stalk its prey, and to strike with terrifying speed and precision. The devil represents everything that the jungle fighters strive to be: relentless, deadly, and impossible to catch off guard. It's no coincidence that the most elite regiments of the Imperial Guard are made up of Catachan veterans. They are the living embodiment of the devil's legacy, feared and respected across the galaxy. But the legend goes even deeper. For many Catachan soldiers, the devil isn't just a creature. They see it as a spiritual figure, a symbol of their unbreakable will to survive. The devil has become a guiding force in their lives, a figure they turn to for inspiration in the darkest of times. Some soldiers even claim to have encountered the devil in their journeys through the jungle, a shadowy figure that appears when all seems lost, offering them strength and determination to continue the fight. Whether these stories are real or simply products of the harsh and unforgiving environment, they reveal a deeper truth about the Catachan jungle fighters. They don't just survive their world, they embrace it. The devil in this context represents their unyielding spirit, their refusal to be defeated by the perils of the jungle or the enemies they face. It's also interesting to consider how the legend of the Catachan devil shapes the way other factions view the jungle fighters. The myth of the devil has spread far beyond Catachan, reaching the ears of soldiers and commanders across the Imperium. For many, the Catachan jungle fighters are synonymous with the devil itself: brutal, unrelenting, and terrifying. This reputation has both positive and negative effects. On one hand, the Catachan regiments are feared and respected, with their mere presence on the battlefield enough to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. The very idea that these soldiers are the direct descendants of the Catachan devil makes them seem unstoppable. But on the other hand, this reputation sometimes leads to misunderstandings. Some see the Catachans as little more than savages, relying on brute strength and reckless tactics rather than strategy and discipline. This underestimation of their abilities can work to their advantage, as they often use the fear and misconceptions surrounding their tactics to surprise and outmaneuver their enemies. The devil has also become a touchstone for the Catachan soldiers in moments of doubt. When they face overwhelming odds, they often think back to the stories of the devil. The idea that this creature, this embodiment of all the dangers Catachan offers, has survived for so long is a powerful motivator. It reminds them that if the devil can thrive in such a hostile environment, then so can they. This connection to the devil creates a sense of unity among the Catachan regiments, forging a bond that goes beyond mere camaraderie. It's a shared belief, a common myth that ties them together and gives them the strength to face whatever horrors they encounter, be it on the battlefield or in the depths of their own jungles. Fan theories often explore the idea that the Catachan devil's influence extends even further, suggesting that the legend of the devil is a subtle form of propaganda. The stories of the devil, they argue, were intentionally crafted to instill fear in the enemies of the Imperium, to make them believe that the Catachan jungle fighters are more than just soldiers. They are the living embodiments of an unstoppable force of nature. Some even go so far as to suggest that the Imperium itself has intentionally cultivated the legend to make Catachan regiments seem invincible, a psychological tool designed to break the spirits of those who face them. This theory, though speculative, sheds light on the idea that the Catachan devil is more than just a part of Catachan's culture. It's a weapon, a tool used to manipulate fear and bolster the reputation of the jungle fighters. Ultimately, the legend of the Catachan devil is a testament to the unique nature of Catachan culture. It's not just a story, it's a living, breathing part of the identity of the soldiers who hail from that deadly world. The devil has shaped their mindset, their tactics, and their very approach to war. Whether it's a literal creature or a metaphor for the savage spirit of the Catachan jungle fighters, the devil remains an integral part of what makes them so fearsome. It's a story that continues to inspire and haunt them, reminding them every day that they are part of something far greater than themselves, the unstoppable force of Catachan's unyielding will. The Katachan Devil plays a central role in shaping the identity of the Katachan regiments within the Imperial Guard. It's not just a figure of myth or legend, it's woven into the very fabric of what it means to be a Katachan soldier. From the very moment they step foot on the battlefield, Katachan jungle fighters carry with them not only the reputation of their homeworld, but also the expectations set by the myth of the Katachan Devil. This creature, whether real or imagined, has become more than just a symbol. It's a guiding force, a standard by which every Katachan soldier measures themselves. For the Katachan regiments, the devil is not only a part of their folklore, it's an embodiment of the warrior spirit they strive to cultivate. The harsh, unforgiving jungles of Katachan are a constant reminder of what they must endure, and the devil represents the ultimate apex of survival, strength, and cunning. These are qualities that define the Katachan regiments in the Imperial Guard. The idea that they are descendants of such a terrifying and powerful figure reinforces their mentality and determination. In battle, Katachans are expected to be relentless, fierce, and unyielding, traits that mirror the myth of the devil itself. For them, there is no room for hesitation, no place for weakness. Every mission is a chance to prove that they are just as terrifying, if not more so, than the devil itself. The Katachan Devil also plays a psychological role within the Imperial Guard. When Katachan regiments are deployed, their enemies are already terrified of what they represent. The fear of the Katachan jungle fighters is amplified by the legend of the devil. Enemies know that these soldiers are not only skilled, but that they carry with them the weight of an entire planet's deadly mythos. It's no surprise that the very mention of the Katachan jungle fighters often strikes fear into the hearts of those who face them. The devil, in this sense, acts as both a weapon and a psychological tool, a part of the regimental identity that ensures that their enemies never underestimate them. Interestingly, this fear isn't just about terror, it's about the undeniable presence that the Katachan regiments bring to the battlefield. The myth of the Katachan Devil has been ingrained in the psyche of the Imperium as a whole. It's become a symbol of what the Katachans are capable of. Fierce warriors, capable of withstanding the toughest conditions and emerging victorious. It's a reflection of the fierce pride and unbreakable will that defines their culture. And so, when they step onto the battlefield, the Katachan regiments are not just soldiers, they are the very embodiment of their homeworld's myth, with the Katachan Devil watching over them. From a tactical perspective, the Katachan Devil influences the way these regiments approach combat. In a universe where enemies come in all shapes and sizes, where the threat of death is ever present, the Katachans have learned to fight in ways that reflect the savagery of the devil. Their tactics are not about subtlety or precision, they are about overwhelming strength and brutality, using the environment to their advantage. Much like the devil that allegedly prowls the jungles, they are masters of stealth, capable of striking with deadly force from the shadows before their enemies even realize what's happening. One theory that often circulates among Warhammer 40k fans is that the Catachan Devil is less a single creature and more of a manifestation of the Katachan regiment's collective mindset. The more stories are told, the more the devil becomes a reflection of the soldiers themselves. In this interpretation, the devil is not just a mythical beast, it is the very essence of what it means to be a Katachan warrior. The jungle, the deadly creatures, and the merciless environment all contribute to creating soldiers who are as fierce and unforgiving as the devil itself. This view suggests that the Katachan Devil might not even be a real creature at all, but instead a metaphor for the strength and brutality that Katachans embody. For the Katachan regiments, the devil is also a form of legacy. Every jungle fighter who comes from Katachan knows the stories. They grow up hearing about the devil, watching their fellow soldiers embody the legend as they face their own challenges. The younger soldiers, especially those who have just enlisted, are often told these stories as a rite of passage. It's a way of instilling in them the idea that they are not just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for the legacy of their ancestors, the legendary warriors who battled against the harshest conditions the galaxy has to offer. There's also something fascinating about how the legend of the Catachan Devil shapes the regimental esprit de corps. These soldiers don't just fight alongside each other. They fight as a cohesive unit, united by the shared mythos that has defined them for generations. The devil is something that transcends individual soldiers. It's about the collective identity of the Catachan regiments. When they are on the battlefield, they don't see themselves as individuals. They see themselves as part of something greater, something that has been forged in the fires of Catachan's jungles. This shared identity is what makes them such an effective fighting force. They aren't just trained to fight. They are trained to fight for each other and for the legacy of their world, embodied in the terrifying figure of the Catachan Devil. The significance of the Catachan Devil within the Imperial Guard goes beyond just the physical and psychological aspects. It is a cultural anchor, a unifying force that connects every soldier who serves in the Catachan regiments. The legend is a constant reminder of who they are, where they come from, and what they are capable of. It's a force that drives them forward, pushing them to become more than just soldiers. The Catachan Devil represents the very essence of their identity, a brutal, unyielding force shaped by the unforgiving world they call home. When they march into battle, they carry with them not just their weapons and training, but the weight of the devil itself. And it is this fearsome presence that makes the Catachan regiments one of the most formidable forces in the Imperium. The Catachan Devil, an entity that has roamed the jungles of Catachan in myth for centuries, has captured the imagination of both soldiers and scholars alike. But as with most legends, the question arises, is the Catachan Devil more than just a tale told to frighten or inspire? Could there be truth behind the myth, or is it merely a reflection of the harshness of Catachan itself? Speculation on this subject has run rampant among the Warhammer 40k fanbase, with various theories about the true nature of the Catachan Devil, offering intriguing insights into how such myths are born and persist. One of the most popular theories among fans is that the Catachan Devil is, in fact, not just one creature but a collective term for a variety of deadly and monstrous creatures that inhabit the jungles of Catachan. According to this theory, the devil is an amalgamation of the many apex predators that call Catachan home, with each new encounter contributing to the evolution of the legend. Over time, these encounters with fearsome creatures, each more terrifying than the last, have become intertwined to form the concept of the Catachan Devil. What started as a tale of one terrifying creature has morphed into a figure that embodies the savagery of Catachan itself. Some fans argue that the Catachan Devil could even be a reflection of the mind of the soldier, particularly the mental fortitude required to survive on such a hostile planet. The legend, in this view, might be less about the creature itself and more about the mentality of the Catachan regiments. To survive on Catachan, one must be like the devil, unyielding, fierce, and ruthless. This theory suggests that the Catachan Devil is a metaphorical representation of the strength required to endure the world's brutal conditions. Every soldier who survives Catachan's training and the horrors of its jungles would be shaped by the myth, internalizing it as part of their identity. On the other hand, there are those who believe that the Catachan Devil is a real, tangible being, one that exists beyond the myth. These fans believe that there is something in Catachan's wild jungles that could create a creature so terrifying it would leave an indelible mark on the very culture of the Catachan jungle fighters. This theory suggests that the devil may be an ancient predator, a creature born from Catachan's primal ecosystem and possibly even mutated by the forces of the warp, which are notorious for distorting the natural order. Given Catachan's proximity to the chaos-infested regions of the galaxy, it's not hard to imagine that a creature could be transformed by the dark energies that permeate the galaxy. Some speculations even hint at the devil being a product of the Chaos God's influence, twisted by their malefic powers. If this theory holds any truth, it would align with the grimdark nature of the Warhammer 40k universe, where nothing, not even the most terrifying creatures of the Imperium, is free from the touch of chaos. Could the Catachan Devil have been some kind of warp-tainted creature, altered into the monster it is now by the very forces the Imperium fights against? That theory raises the stakes, presenting the devil not as an isolated predator, but as a potential herald of chaos, a being that, much like the Katachan regiments themselves, has learned to thrive in the face of overwhelming odds. Other fans, though, have a different take. The Catachan devil might not even be a creature at all. What if the devil is a symbol, a collective representation of the deadly environment that the Catachan regiments endure? The Catachan jungle is, after all, a place that kills without remorse, where every corner hides a predator, every shadow a lurking danger. In this theory, the Catachan devil is not a physical being, but an ever-present manifestation of the lethal wilderness that soldiers are forced to contend with. The stories of the devil, then, would be a coping mechanism for soldiers trying to understand the terror they face daily. It's easier to conceptualize an all-powerful monster than to face the grim reality that the planet itself is the true enemy. However, some fans take it a step further, suggesting that the Catachan devil could represent the darker, more primal side of the Catachan fighters themselves. This theory proposes that the devil is not just a reflection of the jungle's dangers, but a metaphor for the soldiers who have been forged by such an unforgiving world. The Catachan jungle fighters are known for their brutal tactics and ruthless nature, and the devil might represent this part of their identity, the side that is willing to do whatever it takes to survive. In this interpretation, the devil isn't an external threat at all, but rather the part of the soldiers that they try to suppress in order to function as a unit. Of course, there are still others who believe the Catachan devil is part of a much larger cosmic puzzle, a being tied to the ancient history of Katachan. Some speculate that the devil could be the last remnant of a long-extinct species, once dominant on the planet before the brutal ecological upheavals of the Catachan jungles forced them into hiding. In this case, the devil could be a creature with an intelligence and cunning far beyond the common predator. This theory adds a layer of mystery to the legend, as it hints at a forgotten age of Catachan's history, where creatures of unimaginable power roamed freely, yet only to be buried under the weight of time and nature's wrath. There's even a theory that posits the Catachan devil as a kind of guardian spirit, a protector of the jungle, if you will. According to this view, the devil isn't just a mindless predator, it's a mystical creature that ensures only the most worthy of warriors can survive in the jungle. In this sense, the devil would act as a gatekeeper, testing those who enter the jungle to see if they have what it takes to survive. This theory implies that the devil is a supernatural force, imbued with an almost divine purpose, ensuring that only the strongest, most resilient warriors are allowed to call themselves Catachans. Of course, no theory about the Catachan devil can be definitively proven or disproven. It remains a mystery, an enigma that only adds to the allure and terror surrounding the Catachan regiments. Whether the devil is a real, tangible creature or a symbol of the unrelenting forces of Catachan's deadly environment, it's clear that the myth has become an integral part of the Catachan identity. The very existence of the devil, whether imagined or real, serves to reinforce the idea that in Warhammer 40k, legends are more than just stories. They are the very essence of the universe itself, shaping the warriors who fight and the horrors they must face. The Catachan devil is a perfect example of this, an ever-present, ever-looming force in the lives of the jungle fighters, and a symbol of the fierce, unyielding spirit that defines them. Catachan is no ordinary planet. It is a world where every step could be your last, where life is as dangerous as it is brutal, and where even the flora and fauna seem to conspire against those who dare to live on its surface. The planet's jungles are infamous throughout the Imperium, not for their beauty or serenity, but for the overwhelming threat they pose to life. It is here, in this deadly environment, that the myth of the Catachan devil is born. The legend is as much a product of the jungle itself as it is a reflection of the soldiers who survive within it. Catachan's jungles are not just inhospitable, they are outright lethal. The planet's ecosystem is an endless gauntlet of deadly creatures, each more terrifying than the last. Giant, carnivorous plants reach out from the shadows, ready to snare any unwary traveler. The air itself is thick with toxins, and the terrain is a labyrinth of traps, both natural and man-made. The wildlife is no better. It's a collection of apex predators, each one more dangerous than the next, all adapted to thrive in the unforgiving environment. Some of these creatures are colossal, Others are deceptively small, but just as lethal. Together they create a world where survival is a constant struggle, and death is always lurking just around the corner. The Catachan devil, many believe, is a manifestation of this environment, a creature that embodies the untamed ferocity of Catachan itself. And when you consider the types of creatures that inhabit the jungle, it's not hard to see where such a legend could have come from. Imagine a predator that combines the traits of the most dangerous creatures on Catachan, something that embodies the jungle's deadly qualities. The devil could be a monstrous predator, unlike anything seen elsewhere in the galaxy, a creature built to survive in an environment where even the smallest misstep could lead to a horrific death. One of the most feared creatures in the Catachan jungle is the Catachan devilfish, a massive amphibious predator that blends into the murky waters of the swamps. With its razor-sharp teeth and thick, armored hide, the devilfish has earned its name by being almost impossible to kill. This fish is capable of ambushing unsuspecting prey with lightning speed, dragging them into the depths of the jungle's waterways. Many who have tried to hunt the devilfish have never returned, and some believe that the Catachan devil itself may be a product of such a creature's fearsome nature. Fans have speculated that the devil could be a larger, more evolved form of these creatures, taking the traits of multiple deadly predators and combining them into one terrifying entity. Then, there are the Catachan Deathworld serpents, which have been described as the apex predators of the jungle. These enormous snakes slither through the underbrush, silently hunting their prey. Some are capable of constricting creatures far larger than themselves, while others are venomous, capable of paralyzing their victims before delivering a fatal bite. The sheer strength, size, and lethality of these serpents have led many to speculate that the Catachan devil could be a similarly monstrous reptilian predator with features that have evolved to make it a perfect killer in the deadly jungle ecosystem. With its massive claws, sharp teeth, and primal instincts, the Catachan devil would fit right in among these terrifying creatures, thriving in an environment that demands nothing less than brutal strength and cunning. In addition to the more monstrous creatures, the Catachan jungle is home to a host of smaller, but no less dangerous creatures. One of the most notorious is the Catachan mantis, a predatory insect that is capable of jumping incredible distances and attacking with its razor-sharp pincers. These creatures are known to stalk their prey for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Their speed and precision make them deadly, and many Catachan soldiers have had to deal with them during their training or on the battlefield. Some fan theories suggest that the Catachan devil could be a hybrid of these smaller creatures, a blending of the insect world's speed and agility with the brute force of larger predators. The idea of a creature that is both quick and powerful, able to strike with deadly accuracy, would certainly fit the devil's legendary status. There are also the Catachan blood scorpions, creatures that are capable of blending into their surroundings with terrifying ease. These animals are so well camouflaged that it's said they can disappear into the very shadows themselves. Their pincers are capable of crushing bone, and their stingers can deliver a venomous strike that leaves even the most seasoned warriors paralyzed and helpless. These creatures are deadly not only because of their physical traits, but because they represent the lethal nature of the jungle itself. The ability to move unseen, to strike with deadly force before being detected, is a trait that would make any predator a formidable force. Some theorists believe that the Catachan devil could be a manifestation of this strategy, hunting in the shadows, striking swiftly and silently, then disappearing back into the wilderness. The jungles of Catachan are also home to several species of enormous arachnids, some the size of a warhound titan. These spiders are venomous, with long, serrated legs capable of piercing through armor. They are known for their webs, which are said to be strong enough to entrap even the largest of creatures. The sheer scale and deadlines of these arachnids lead some fans to believe that the Catachan devil could have evolved from a species of giant spider, taking on traits of both arachnid and reptilian predators. A creature with the speed of the Deathworld serpent, the deadly strike of the mantis, and the stealth of the blood scorpion could easily be seen as a worthy adversary to the fierce soldiers of Catachan. But what makes these creatures so deadly? And why are they so dangerous to those who venture into their habitat? It's because the Catachan jungle has evolved into an ecosystem that favors only the most ruthless survivors. The creatures of Catachan have adapted to survive in an environment where danger is ever present, and this survivalist mentality has shaped not just the animals, but the people who call Catachan home. The Catachan devil, if it exists, is simply an extension of this harsh reality, a product of an environment that breeds only the toughest, most unyielding creatures in the galaxy. As we look at the jungle and its creatures, it's easy to see how the Catachan devil could have inspired the myth. The terror that these creatures instill in the hearts of anyone who steps foot on Catachan is not unlike the fear that soldiers feel when they think of the devil. The jungle itself is alive with death, and the creatures that dwell within it are constantly adapting, constantly evolving to be the perfect predators. The devil, whether it's real or a legend, is a perfect representation of this terrifying, brutal world, a creature born from the very essence of Catachan's unforgiving nature. When you think of the Catachan devil, it's easy to imagine a fearsome creature, perhaps a giant, nightmarish predator stalking the jungle, its claws raking through the dense foliage. But what if the devil isn't just a creature of flesh and bone, but a reflection of something much darker and more profound? What if the Catachan devil represents the monstrous, savage warriors who emerge from the very heart of the Catachan jungle itself? The men and women who have been shaped by its brutal conditions, turning them into something far more than just soldiers. This is one of the most compelling interpretations of the Catachan devil, one that links the legend not to a single creature, but to the warriors who embody the untamed ferocity of their homeworld. Catachan's warriors are, by any measure, some of the toughest, most relentless soldiers in the Imperial Guard. These jungle fighters are forged in the crucible of their planet's death traps, each day spent surviving against a backdrop of deadly predators, toxic environments, and extreme conditions that would break lesser men. Catachan soldiers are trained to survive and fight in the most hostile terrain imaginable, and the very nature of their training and survival instincts reflects the savage beauty of their homeworld. They are more than just soldiers. They are a living embodiment of the Catachan devil itself, walking the jungles with the same primal instincts and brutality that make the devil such a legendary figure. The idea that the Catachan devil could represent these warriors isn't just a flight of fancy. It's rooted in the very characteristics that define the Catachan regiments. These soldiers are known for their ferocity, their ruthlessness, and their sheer will to survive. Much like the devil, they are relentless and merciless, fighting not just for victory, but for their very survival. Every battle, every mission is a reminder of the harsh environment they come from, a place where only the strongest can hope to live, and where those who hesitate or show weakness are consumed by the very jungle that sustains them. In this sense, the Catachan devil is not just a monster of legend. It's a symbol of the savage warriors who have been hardened by their environment into something more than human. Fans of the Warhammer 40k universe often draw parallels between the Catachan jungle fighters and other monstrous figures in the lore, such as the brutal orc war bosses or the terrifying tyrannid creatures. But while those factions represent a form of savagery rooted in instinct and violence, the Catachan regiments are different. They are not just savage, they are survivors, shaped by the harsh realities of their homeworld. It's this combination of savage instinct and survival skill that makes the Catachan devil such a fitting representation of the jungle fighters. The devil is not merely a monster. It's a reflection of what these warriors have become in order to survive. They are the devil made flesh, and their legendary status is not just about their strength, but about the way they embody the primal nature of their world. There's also something deeply symbolic about the way the Catachan devil is often depicted in the lore. While the devil is a creature of immense strength and terror, it is also a figure that represents the jungle's unforgiving environment. The Catachan jungle is a place where only the fiercest can thrive. And in a way, the Catachan devil is a manifestation of this very idea. It's not just about physical power. It's about the ability to endure, to to adapt and to overcome the overwhelming odds that Katachan soldiers face every day. The devil is not just a predator. It is the embodiment of survival itself, and it serves as a reminder that the warriors who emerge from Catachan are just as capable of surviving, adapting, and dominating their enemies. One of the most interesting aspects of the connection between the Catachan devil and the warriors of Catachan is the idea that these soldiers don't just survive, they thrive in their environment. They are shaped by the jungle, their bodies and minds hardened by the constant challenges they face. The Catachan jungle fighters have an almost supernatural ability to adapt to their environment, making them masters of guerrilla warfare and ambush tactics. Just as the Catachan devil is said to strike from the shadows, the jungle fighters excel at using the environment to their advantage, becoming invisible to their enemies before delivering devastating strikes. This link between the devil and the soldiers is not just metaphorical. It's a fundamental part of the way the Catachan regiments approach combat. Some fans have even speculated that the Catachan devil could be more than just a reflection of the soldiers themselves. It could represent a kind of collective spirit, a manifestation of the Catachan regiment's shared experience and shared mentality. When a Catachan soldier enters the battlefield, they are not just fighting for themselves, they are fighting for the legacy of their people. The legacy of the Catachan devil. It's said that the spirit of the devil guides them in battle, pushing them to new heights of brutality and efficiency. This idea ties into the belief that the devil is not just a creature, but a force that represents the collective strength of the Catachan warriors. It's this shared identity that makes them such a formidable fighting force. Each soldier is a piece of the devil, and together they are an unstoppable force. In a way, the Catachan devil is not just a figure from the past. It's a living, breathing part of the present-day Catachan regiments. The stories and myths surrounding the devil have shaped the way these soldiers see themselves and their role in the Imperial Guard. They are not just soldiers, they are the living embodiment of the devil's power and fury, and they carry with them the weight of the legend every time they march into battle. This connection to the devil has become a cornerstone of their identity, a source of pride and motivation that drives them to push beyond their limits, to conquer the impossible, and to emerge victorious against all odds. When we look at the Catachan devil through this lens, we see that it's not just a creature or a myth. It's a symbol of the strength, determination, and resilience that defines the Catachan warriors. These soldiers are not just fighting for their survival, they are fighting to prove that they are worthy of the legacy of the Catachan devil. They carry its ferocity, its cunning, and its strength with them, making them one of the most feared and respected regiments in the Imperial Guard. The devil is not just a legend. It's a living, breathing force that drives them forward, ensuring that they will never back down, never give up, and always emerge victorious. And perhaps in the end, this is the greatest truth about the Catachan devil. It is not just a monster. It is a reflection of the monstrous warriors that rise from the jungle to face the challenges of the galaxy. The legacy of the Catachan devil stretches far beyond the dense jungles of its homeworld. It has become a symbol, a living myth, that has shaped the identity of the Catachan jungle fighters and echoed throughout the Warhammer 40k universe. The devil's influence reaches across the battlefield, through the minds of soldiers, and into the very essence of what it means to survive and fight in the galaxy's most unforgiving environments. Its legacy is not merely in stories told around campfires, but in the actions, the strategies, and the unrelenting willpower of the warriors who bear the name of Katachan. From a cultural standpoint, the Catachan devil's impact is undeniable. The legend serves as a source of inspiration and pride for the Catachan jungle fighters, but it also shapes how they are viewed by others in the Imperium and beyond. The Catachan devil represents something far more than just a creature. It represents the spirit of survival, strength, and fearlessness. These warriors, shaped by the same environment that gave birth to the devil, see themselves as the living embodiment of that legend. It's not just about fighting in the jungle, it's about embodying the relentless, terrifying power that the devil symbolizes. The influence of the Catachan devil is also reflected in the way these warriors fight. The reputation of the Katachan regiments precedes them, with their brutal tactics, relentless strategies, and uncanny ability to thrive in the most inhospitable conditions. The Devil's legacy is a constant reminder that Catachans are not just soldiers. They are predators, molded by the jungle's unforgiving nature, prepared to strike at any enemy with the same deadly force. This is not just about fighting for the Imperium. It's about proving themselves worthy of the legacy of the Catachan Devil, who stalked the jungles with fearsome might. Beyond the Catachan regiments, the legacy of the Devil has permeated the wider Warhammer 40k universe in subtle but powerful ways. The stories of the Catachan Devil have spread throughout the galaxy, with the legend becoming something of a cautionary tale for those who underestimate the resilience of the Catachan soldiers. Even outside of Catachan, the myth has become a symbol of the brutal realities of warfare in the 41st millennium. It represents the raw, untamed violence that can arise from the harshest conditions, reminding both soldiers and civilians alike of the terrible price of survival. In the context of Imperial Guard tactics, the Catachan Devil's legacy is felt in the way the Catachan regiments approach combat. Their strategies, often centered around ambushes, guerrilla warfare, and using the environment to their advantage, are a direct reflection of the mythos that surrounds the Devil. These tactics are not just born of military training, they are the result of generations of soldiers who have been taught to fight with the same cunning and ferocity as the legendary Devil itself. It's no coincidence that the Catachan regiments are some of the most respected and feared in the Imperial Guard. Their reputation as deadly and unyielding warriors is not just a matter of military prowess. It is a reflection of the legacy of a myth that has been passed down through the generations. One of the most interesting aspects of the Catachan Devil's legacy is the way it has influenced the relationship between Catachan regiments and other Imperial forces. When Catachan soldiers are deployed alongside other regiments, their reputation often precedes them. The mere mention of the Catachan Devil strikes fear into the hearts of their enemies and even their allies. While some might view the Catachans as little more than savages, their reputation for ruthlessness and cunning is enough to make even the most battle-hardened commanders take pause. There's a certain respect that comes with the fear, and it's a respect that the Catachan jungle fighters wear as a badge of honor. At the same time, the Catachan Devil's legacy also has a role in how other factions view the Imperium. The legend of the Devil reinforces the idea that the Imperium is a force to be reckoned with, that it has created a breed of warriors who can survive in the most unforgiving environments and emerge victorious. This, in turn, plays into the broader narrative of the Imperium's strength and tenacity, giving weight to the mythos surrounding the Imperial Guard as a whole. The Devil serves as a reminder to both allies and enemies alike that the Imperium's forces are not to be underestimated, and that the Catachan jungle fighters, with their terrifying legend, are one of the Imperium's most formidable assets. The Catachan Devil's legacy also extends into the personal lives of the soldiers who are influenced by the myth. There are countless stories of soldiers who, when faced with impossible odds, draw inspiration from the legend of the Devil. They look to the myth as a source of strength, pushing themselves to perform feats that would be unimaginable for lesser warriors. The idea that they are walking in the footsteps of the Catachan Devil, embodying its fearlessness and ferocity, becomes a driving force that helps them overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. In this way, the Devil becomes more than just a story. It becomes a psychological tool, a mental anchor that keeps the soldiers grounded in their identity and focused on their mission. Fan theories about the Devil's legacy often delve into the idea that the Catachan Devil is not just a reflection of Catachan soldiers, but a product of the environment itself. Some argue that the Devil's legacy is so strong because it represents the symbiosis between the soldiers and their homeworld. The brutal jungle conditions have shaped the Catachan warriors into creatures of survival, and the Devil is a symbol of this unbreakable bond. These theories suggest that the Devil isn't just a myth passed down through generations. It is the result of a culture built on the foundation of constant struggle against an unforgiving world. In this sense, the legacy of the Catachan Devil is a living, breathing part of the soldiers themselves. The most fascinating aspect of the Devil's legacy, however, is how it continues to evolve. With each new generation of Katachan soldiers, the Devil's myth takes on new forms, new interpretations. As long as Katachan remains a part of the Imperium, the legend of the Devil will continue to shape the identity of the warriors who come from it. The legacy will live on, not just in the stories told by veterans, but in the actions of those who fight in the name of Katachan. It will continue to inspire, to terrify, and to remind all who face it that there are forces in the galaxy that cannot be defeated, no matter how hard you try. In the end, the Catachan Devil's legacy is more than just a myth or a creature. It is a symbol of the indomitable spirit of Catachan itself. It is a force that lives within the hearts of every soldier who steps onto the battlefield, and a reminder that no matter how fierce the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, the Devil's spirit will always rise above. The legacy of the Catachan Devil will continue to haunt the galaxy, ensuring that its myth never dies, and that the warriors who carry its name will always be a force to be reckoned with. When we take a deeper look at the Catachan Devil and explore the possibility that it might be more than just a terrifying creature, the idea of it being a metaphor becomes increasingly compelling. This is a figure that is rooted in the harsh and unforgiving world of Catachan, a planet where the very environment tests the limits of human endurance. But what if the Devil, rather than a simple monster lurking in the jungle, is actually a symbol? A representation of something far more profound within the culture of Catachan and the broader Imperial Guard. What if the Devil, in all its terrifying glory, embodies the spirit of survival, strength, and resilience that Catachan warriors must constantly summon in order to thrive in such a hostile place? One of the most striking aspects of the Catachan Devil is the way it has become a part of Catachan's cultural identity. For the soldiers of Catachan, this isn't just a myth or a piece of folklore. It's something that defines them, shapes their mindset, and influences their approach to war. In this sense, the Devil could very well be a metaphor for the warriors themselves, their ability to survive, adapt, and overcome every obstacle placed in their way. The Catachan Devil, therefore, is not just a creature lurking in the shadows. It is a reflection of the spirit and determination that the Catachan jungle fighters must adopt to survive in a world that seems bent on killing them at every turn. The Devil is the manifestation of the resilience that defines these soldiers, fierce, relentless, and unyielding. If we take this metaphorical interpretation further, it becomes clear that the Catachan Devil symbolizes the internal transformation that soldiers undergo when they face constant, overwhelming danger. The Catachan jungle fighters are trained not just to fight, but to survive against everything the planet throws at them. Poisonous plants, deadly predators, and the treacherous environment that can kill even the most seasoned warriors. The Devil, in this sense, could represent the soldiers' evolution, the way they shed their humanity and become something else entirely in order to survive. The longer a soldier spends on Catachan, the more they must adapt to the jungle's brutal ways. They become predators themselves, embodying the very essence of the Devil in their tactics, instincts, and outlook on life. This transformation, this shedding of their old selves, could be seen as the moment when the Catachan soldier stops being human in the traditional sense and becomes something more. Something like the Devil, ruthless and savage, capable of surviving anything. Fans of the Warhammer 40k lore have long debated the true nature of the Catachan Devil, with some suggesting that the Devil is a literal manifestation of the collective spirit of the Catachan warriors. The idea is that just as the warriors of Catachan are shaped by the jungle and its dangers, so too is their very identity shaped by the myth of the Devil. The more the Devil is mythologized, the more it becomes a part of what it means to be a Catachan soldier. The Devil, in this case, would not be a single creature, but a collective force. Something that embodies the will to survive and the brutality required to face the horrors of the jungle head-on. As the soldiers of Katachan endure battle after battle, they come to represent the Devil itself, becoming more and more like the monster they've been told about in their youth until they can no longer separate themselves from the legend. But there's also a darker theory that sees the Catachan devil as a metaphor for something far more insidious: the cost of war. The Catachan jungle fighters, for all their strength and resilience, are ultimately shaped by the violence and bloodshed that defines their existence. The devil, in this view, could symbolize the psychological toll that the brutality of the jungle takes on the soldiers who survive it. As soldiers fight and kill in order to stay alive, they become more and more disconnected from their own humanity. The devil becomes a symbol of this loss, an embodiment of the price paid for survival. The longer a soldier lives in the jungle, the more they must sacrifice, and the devil represents that dark transformation, the stripping away of what it means to be human in favor of something more primal, more brutal. This theory suggests that the Catachan devil is a warning, a representation of the potential future that awaits soldiers who fight for too long. It reflects the fear that, in the end, the Catachan jungle fighters may become nothing more than monsters themselves, losing all sense of compassion, empathy, or morality. It's a powerful metaphor for the horrors of war and the way it can strip a soldier of everything except the will to survive. The Catachan devil, in this context, isn't just a creature. It's a symbol of the terrible price of war, a reminder that every soldier who walks through the jungle's deadly embrace is walking a fine line between survival and madness. On the other hand, there's a more optimistic theory that positions the Catachan devil as a metaphor for resilience and the indomitable spirit of the human will. In this interpretation, the devil is not a symbol of death or corruption, but of the strength that lies within the soldiers of Catachan. The soldiers of Catachan are known for their tenacity and their ability to endure against all odds. They are warriors forged by the harshest conditions the galaxy has to offer, and the Catachan devil is a reflection of that strength. It's a symbol of the soldiers' ability to thrive in a world designed to destroy them. They may face death at every turn, but the devil represents their refusal to yield, their ability to stand tall in the face of overwhelming adversity. In this sense, the Catachan devil embodies hope, not hopelessness. It's a symbol of victory over the relentless forces of nature and war, a reminder that no matter how dangerous the jungle, no matter how vicious the enemy, the Catachans will endure. The devil's metaphorical significance extends beyond the soldiers of Catachan themselves. It has become a part of the identity of the Imperial Guard as a whole, serving as a symbol of what it means to fight for the Imperium. The Imperial Guard, as a whole, is often seen as a reflection of humanity's resilience in the face of endless war. The Catachan devil, in this context, represents the very essence of what the Guard embodies: brutality, endurance, and the unbreakable will to survive. Just as the devil haunts the jungles of Catachan, the spirit of survival and strength haunts every soldier in the Imperial Guard. It serves as a reminder that no matter how dire the circumstances, humanity's will to survive is unmatched. Ultimately, the Catachan devil might not be one thing. It could be a combination of all of these interpretations. A metaphor for the darkness that soldiers face when they confront the savagery of war, a symbol of the strength and resilience required to survive in the most hostile of environments, and a reflection of the personal and collective sacrifices that warriors make in the name of survival. Whether it's the embodiment of the soldiers' transformation into beasts of war, or a representation of the toll that survival takes on their souls, the devil stands as a powerful metaphor that transcends its mythological origins. In the end, the Catachan devil is not just a creature of the jungle. It is the essence of what it means to fight and survive in a galaxy at war. As we bring this exploration of the Catachan devil to a close, it's impossible not to feel the weight of its legacy. This legend, deeply woven into the fabric of Catachan's warrior culture, continues to haunt the minds of soldiers and commanders alike, shaping the very essence of what it means to fight for survival in a universe as merciless as Warhammer 40k. The Catachan devil is more than just a story. It's a living force, an idea, and a symbol of the brutal tenacity that defines not just Catachan soldiers, but the Imperium itself. The question of whether the devil is more than just a myth is not easily answered, for it is as much a metaphor as it is a reality, a reflection of the warriors who walk in its shadow, What stands out most about the Catachan Devil is how deeply it resonates with the themes of survival and strength in the Warhammer 40k universe. In a galaxy constantly at war where death is always looming, the Devil embodies the essence of those who survive against all odds. It's not simply about brute strength, nor is it only about fear. It's about the resilience to keep going, even when the world is trying to tear you apart. Katachan's warriors, shaped by the brutality of their homeworld, carry that strength with them into battle, and the Devil serves as both their inspiration and their guiding force. It represents everything they are: relentless, savage, and indomitable. The enduring legacy of the Catachan Devil also speaks to something larger within the Imperium. The Devil, though born from a specific world, represents the struggles faced by all soldiers in the Imperial Guard. It's a symbol of what it takes to survive in a universe filled with horrors that no one could have imagined. The Catachan Devil might be a reflection of the environment that birthed it, but it also mirrors the spirit of the Imperium's soldiers, a spirit that refuses to be broken, no matter the cost. Whether facing the overwhelming power of Xeno's invaders or the insidious influence of chaos, the Catachan Devil stands as a reminder that the soldiers of the Imperium are shaped by the same forces of survival, strength, and willpower that define their greatest legends. What's especially compelling is the way the Catachan Devil serves as both a physical and psychological presence for the Catachan regiments. On one hand, it is a literal creature that embodies the deadly force of the jungle, a predator that stalks the warriors who dare to face the jungle's wrath. On the other, it is a psychological force, a mental anchor that helps the soldiers keep pushing forward, even when faced with the unimaginable. It's no wonder that the Catachan regiments are among the most respected and feared in the Imperial Guard. They aren't just warriors, they are the living embodiment of the Catachan Devil itself. Every step they take on the battlefield is a step in the Devil's footsteps, driven by the same relentless force that powers their survival. Theories about the Devil's true nature only add to the intrigue. Some fans have suggested that the Catachan Devil isn't a physical being at all, but a metaphorical figure, a reflection of the savage nature that lies at the heart of Catachan's warriors. This interpretation adds depth to the myth, suggesting that the Devil is not just a predator to fear, but a representation of the warriors themselves, shaped by their environment, embodying the primal instincts required to survive. Other theories posit that the Devil is more than just a metaphor for survival. It could symbolize the collective spirit of the Catachan regiments, a unifying force that binds the soldiers together in their shared struggles. Regardless of which theory holds true, the Devil's legacy endures because it speaks to the essence of what it means to be Catachan. In the end, the Catachan Devil is a perfect example of how legends evolve within the Warhammer 40k universe. It's not just a creature or a story. It's a living, breathing part of the narrative, a symbol that transcends its origins. Whether it's a real creature, a manifestation of the Catachan warrior's psyche, or a metaphor for survival, the Catachan Devil continues to shape the culture and identity of Catachan soldiers. It stands as a testament to the resilience and strength of those who fight on the front lines, a reminder that survival is not just about physical power, but about the indomitable will to live. And as long as Catachan remains a part of the Imperium, so too will the legend of the Catachan Devil. The impact of this legacy reaches far beyond the Catachan jungle. The soldiers who fight in the name of the Catachan Devil are not just warriors, they are symbols of the fight for survival in a universe where every battle is a fight against death. Their reputation for fearlessness, their mastery of guerrilla warfare, and their unyielding spirit have made them one of the most respected regiments in the entire Imperial Guard. Their ability to survive, adapt, and overcome has shaped their legacy, ensuring that the name of the Catachan Devil will live on for generations to come. But beyond the battlefield, the Catachan Devil represents something more fundamental, a core belief that resonates throughout the Warhammer 40k universe. It is the belief that even in the face of overwhelming odds, survival is possible. The Devil's legacy serves as a reminder that strength doesn't always come from sheer power. Sometimes it comes from the will to survive, the determination to keep fighting when everything seems lost. Whether it's the Catachan jungle fighters or the warriors of the Imperium, this enduring truth shapes their actions and their destiny. If there's one thing the Catachan Devil teaches us, it's that survival is not just about existing. It's about thriving, adapting, and embracing the savage beauty of life in a universe that offers no mercy. It's about embracing the legend, embodying the spirit of the devil itself, and facing every challenge with the unyielding will to succeed. So, if you enjoyed this dive into the Catachan Devil's legacy and want to explore more legends and lore from the Warhammer 40k universe, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Share your thoughts, theories, and ideas with us. What do you think the Catachan Devil really represents? Let's keep the conversation going and explore more of the grimdark universe together.